Hey, what's up everybody? Clifton here with Clifton WP, and in this tutorial, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Kadence suite of products. We're going to be looking at the Kadence Theme, Kadence Blocks. We're going to be looking at the free version, and we're going to be looking at the pro version, and we're going to cover everything from A to Z. So I hope you guys are ready for a great tutorial because you're going to be learning a lot about Kadence. You're going to be learning a lot about the templates that they've been releasing, and you're going to be learning a lot about how to build websites with Kadence. So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, first I want to start off by saying if you recently subscribed to the channel or you're a current subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate that. And if you've liked any of my videos, I really appreciate you too. And if you're watching this video and you're new to the channel and you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure you get notified when I release other videos like this. All right, let's just dive right into what we're going to be doing here today. So the first thing that I want to show you is that I am in a completely clean install of WordPress. So there is nothing else here. I've just installed WordPress. We have the default theme and all the default stuff that comes with it. This is basically what we're going to use to do our deep dive into Kadence. Now, for those of you who are not aware of Kadence, although Kadence has become very popular lately, Kadence is a software that is built by a software company, and they're based out of Missoula, Montana. And these people are called Kadence WP. And they actually came to my attention because I was looking for a great theme to support building out websites with Gutenberg. Now, I'm very familiar with building out websites with page builders. I'm familiar with building out websites just by themselves, just with WordPress. But it came to my attention because I started noticing that WordPress was embarking on this Gutenberg block builder experience, and they were not backing off of it. They are actually going to proceed and have this be the default editor for WordPress, replacing the classic editor. So it became very important for me, one, because I have an agency that builds websites for clients and I like to be on the cutting edge of things. Two, I was very curious as to whether or not WordPress could ship with its own block-based builder built in, and what software companies were going to be supporting that. And there's several awesome ones that have done it. Kadence WP is one of them. We're going to be covering the others in later videos. And I wanted to do a deep dive on Kadence because Kadence is probably the only one that I've experienced that has given me the fullest range of customizations with Gutenberg. Because if you've installed Gutenberg yourself, you can probably tell Gutenberg does not have all the customizations that you need that you would get in the page builder, for instance. With Kadence WP and their suite of products, you can basically leverage Gutenberg in such a way that it can be a full-blown page builder, and that's what I love about Kadence. So we're going to dive deep into it, look at every feature, and really get to enjoy all the things that Kadence has to offer. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with it. Okay, so if you are not familiar with Kadence, you can go and read all about them on their About page. You can either go to CliftonWP.com/Kadence, which is my affiliate link for Kadence. I am an affiliate and a full-blown owner of all their software. Or you can just go to CadenceWP.com and read it there for yourself. So here's our website. So if you want to follow along, you should have a default install of WordPress to begin. And then we're going to now go ahead and start installing Kadence, the free theme, so the free version from the WordPress repository. And we're going to install Kadence Blocks, which is the enhancement to the Gutenberg block builder that they provide. All right, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so we're going to go to our dashboard of our fresh WordPress install, and let's just do a few housekeeping things. So typically what I like to do, I like to go to the posts page here, and I will delete this default hello world page. So just put that in the trash and then go to the trash, and we will empty the trash, so there's nothing there. Then I will go to pages, and I'm going to delete all this. This is just what is installed by default. These are just the basic pages. Go to trash, and I'm going to empty that as well. And then I'm going to go to my settings, and I always like to title my site, so we'll just call this Kadence Deep Dive, and we'll give it the ultimate guide to Kadence. Okay, just give it a tagline. And then I'm going to set my time zone and go ahead and save those changes. And then next I'm going to go to the permalinks just to make sure that my permalinks are set to the one that I like, which is basically the web URL and the name of the post or page where the permalink belongs. So that looks pretty good. And that is the fifth option here. And that looks good. And so now we're ready to go ahead and start installing Kadence. So Kadence comes in two versions. There's the free version, which you'll find in the WordPress repository, and then there is a pro version. We're going to start with the free version, and then we're going to progress all the way into the pro features. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to Appearance and Themes, and we're going to click on Add New, and I'm going to search for the Kadence theme. So search for Kadence. Here it is right here. Click on Install and Activate. Great. Next, I'm going to delete all these additional themes here because we're not going to need these. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these. This is just some housekeeping stuff that I like to do with every WordPress site that I build. And it's a habit now. So I just like everything to be really clean so I know what I'm working with. All right, great. So now the theme is there. Let's go ahead and take a look at it now. And this is what this looks like. Okay, so there's nothing here, very plain, and already looks better than the default WordPress install. The next thing that we want to do here is I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And if you come here under Appearance, you will find the Kadence link here under Appearance. And right here are the theme options for Kadence. So if you click on that, it will take you to this page where they say, thank you for choosing the Kadence theme. And then there's some instructions to install the Kadence Starter Templates. If you install these Kadence Starter Templates, you will have access to some starter templates, starter websites that you can install in one click. But we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to actually go through all these features that are here right now. So if we come here, there are 4 tabs: Dashboard, Getting Started, Changelog, and Starter Templates. Under the dashboard, you can see all the features that are contained in the free version of the Kadence theme. So we have global colors where you can change the color palette. We'll take a look at that. There's branding that allows you to upload your logo and your favicon. Then typography is where you can change your font family, font styles, and font sizes. Then you also get the ability to create different types of headers. So there's a header layout element, customization capability there. Page layouts where you can create different page layouts for your pages and your posts. There's a footer layout similar to the header layout, but this is now the footer layout. And then below that, you'll see all the features that you get with the Pro add-on. So we're going to look at the Pro add-on a little bit later, but right now these are all locked when you install the free version. Okay, so really we're just going to focus on these 6 right here: global colors, branding, typography, header layout, page layout, and footer layout. The other thing that you also can take a look at is the Getting Started link here. If you click on this, there's a video and it basically tells you about Kadence. And then you can view the knowledge base and look at additional video tutorials online. The changelog will tell you the latest changes that they've made. And then Starter Templates is where you can install some starter templates to get you going on your site. So, but for now, we're actually going to go through the customizer and look at all the customization capabilities that Kadence has on the front end. So let's do that right now. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go to the front end of the website, and we're going to click on the customizer, which is this link right here. When you open up the customizer, you will be presented with the customization options for the Kadence theme. So right up here, it tells you the website that you're customizing, the active theme, which is Kadence, and then over here are the tabs for all the customizations that you can make. So we have the general tab, the header tab, footer, page layout, blog post, and search results. So these first 6 tabs right here are dedicated to the actual theme itself. Then you have site identity, which is a cross between the theme itself and WordPress. This is where you'll be adding your logo and your favicon to the website. Menus, widgets, and additional CSS in the customizer these are supplied by WordPress. Okay, so we're really going to be talking mostly about these first 6 and maybe the 7th one as well. We'll talk about all of them over time, but really this is where a lot of your changes are going to happen. So the first thing that we want to look at is general. So each tab that you have here has a set of settings. So if I click on general, this deals with the overall aspects of the theme that you would like to customize. So for instance, the layout. When you click on layout, this will address all the layout aspects. For instance, the content max width of your website. Right here, this is set to 1290 pixels. So this slider right here will allow you to increase that or reduce it. And you notice as I drag the slider across, it starts to go down, right? So increase it, or you can reduce it. And right here is your content area. If you make the change and you no longer want this change anymore, you can go ahead and reset it by clicking this reset icon right here on the left. So if I move this, that reset icon shows up, and if I reset it, it goes back to what it was before. And this is all happening in pixels. You can also change the units to ems or rems if you want to. Below that is the content top and bottom spacing. So that's addressing the spacing up here and the spacing down here within your content. So again, same thing. If I start to increase this, you'll notice that the spacing starts to change. Let's go ahead and reset that. And then the narrow layout content max width. So there is a layout option in Kadence where your content is in a narrow layout, and you can just select that as an option. What the width of that layout is what this setting has to do with, and we'll look at that a little bit later. Same thing with the single post boxed with its spacing, and then you also have a box shadow option and a border radius option, and the same thing for your archive grid for your posts. Okay, so that deals with everything that has to do with the layout of your website. If we go back here, we're still under the general settings. We have settings for the sidebar. A lot of sites don't use sidebars anymore as much, but there are some cases where you'll need it. But this will basically dictate the styling for that sidebar if you're going to have that on your pages. Then colors is actually another powerful feature of the Kadence theme. Here you have a chance to be able to select a palette. So these colors represent the palette of the current site right now. And if you ever want to know which color addresses which thing, we can go over that right now. So here are what we call your accent colors. So things like your buttons and your links will take on these colors. So if you look over here, our link where it says get started here, that's this first color right here. Then this right next to it is the hover color for that. So if I hover over this, it changes color to this darker blue, and so on and so forth. The strong text color here is for your headings and bolds. And then the next one is going to be a mid-strong color. Then this color right here, this medium text, this deals with your actual text that is inside things like your search bars and your forms. And then you have an even lighter colored text as well. Then the last three actually have to do with the backgrounds, right? So you see this color right here, this lighter background, and then you have a much heavier or a subtle background that's a little heavier than this one. So if we change this one, for instance, and let's say we change that to, you can change these colors to anything you want. If we change that here, this is actually affecting the page headings. And you can't see the page headings right now, but we'll look at it a little bit later. But the best way to find out what color applies to what thing is to just go ahead and change the color and see what happens. You can always reset it over here. Okay, so if I want to see what this changes, if I click on here, this lighter background, and I make this change, I can now see, okay, so that changes the main body of the website, right? So that would change the main body of the website. What about this color? What does that change? Okay, oh, that changes the search bar, right? So the background of the search bars and the forms. And then I can always reset it. So I can set this as my global palette and link these colors to different aspects of the website. And that way I can just make a change in one place and it changes it everywhere else. Go ahead and reset that. There are three options for the colors. So, three versions that you can have. So I can select one palette and say, let's say keep this as the default. And on the second one, let's say I want a different palette. I want a different color scheme. You see this little folder right here? Just click on that. And there are some colors that you can select that are already preset for you, or you can import your own. So let's say I want to choose this one in the middle here. And you notice how my site changes, and then I can assign another set of colors to this third one. And let's pick something that's more of a change. Here we go, right? So this is more of a warmer change right here. And then you can still make changes to each palette if you want. So this is actually pretty powerful. Now, if you start going down the colors customization section, here are the site background colors. You can change that here. So this is linked to that color right there. The content background color. So our content within the pages will take on this white color, and you can change that as well. And then your title above content background, we'll see that in a little bit. And then your title above content overlay color, which is actually pretty nice. All right. Then here are your link styles. Let's go back. Here are the settings for buttons. So when you add a button to your website and you want it to have default colors, this is where you would change that. You can also add borders, border radius, change the fonts, paddings, add button shadows, and create a button shadow hover state globally on your website. Typography, this is where you can change the typography of your website. So right now we have base fonts, typography, and you have heading. And these two sections right here change the overarching text and headings on your site. But you can also change individual headings for each type of heading font. So you can see right here, you can set the colors, you can set the font families, the style, and the size for each different heading that you have. So let's take a look at how this works. So if I click on the system default here, it gives me a chance to individually select any type of font family that I want. So let's say that I want this Advent Pro. You notice how the text changes as soon as I do that. Then I can say, okay, well, I want everything to be bold. Now, I wouldn't recommend that, but let's just use as an example. I want everything to be bold, and I can go ahead and change the size to whatever size I want, right? So it's pretty big. And when you're done, you can go ahead and just reset that so that you can start from the beginning again. Now, remember that folder thing? If you open up the folder, there are actually some preset font pairings that are already here for you. So you can have font pairings where you have a non-serif font with a serif font. Non-serif means that the font is very plain, has very little styling. This is a non-serif font. Serif fonts tend to have a lilt or a lift on them, so you can kind of see that right here. For instance, if I select this, let's select Play Fair Display, and I confirm the change, we can see that. We don't have any headings on this page right now, so you can't really see the serif fonts, but it does change it to the serif font. So if we were to change this to, for instance, Play Fair Display, I can show you what a serif font looks like. So pay attention to the way that font looks now, and let's look at Play Fair Display. So I'm going to select that option, and now you can kind of see that it's a little bit more stylized. Okay, so let's go ahead and reset that so we can be working with just our system font. So we go back. Here we have the scroll to top option. Some of you are familiar with that, but scroll to top is basically an icon that shows up in the bottom right hand corner of your site. And when people scroll down to the bottom, they can actually click that one link and it'll take them right back to the top. You can enable that and design that in this site. You have settings for your 404 pages where you can choose the normal, narrow, and full width. So if you remember, we were talking about the narrow width, max width when we're looking at the layout option. This is what I was talking about here. So if you select that right here, then it will basically, you will be able to customize the width of that. Okay, let's go back to normal. And here you get to customize your comments, whether you want to move the comments input above the comment list or remove comment from the website entirely. This is where you set up your breadcrumbs. If you're using an SEO plugin, they actually allow you to make changes depending on which SEO plugin you are using for your breadcrumbs. Social links, you can go ahead and preset your social links. That way, when you pull in a social links module, it already has the links for you in there. And then this is where you get to make changes to your performance, things like enabling a lightbox or loading your Google Fonts locally. Okay, and all that's contained within the general settings. Okay, so now that you know what to do in general settings, let's just make sure that we go ahead and reset everything that way. So I think we made some changes to the colors here. So I'm gonna go ahead and reset this. Make sure it's all reset. So we have it back to the default, okay? Then next, now we're gonna cover all the other items like the header, the footer, the page layout, and the blog post layout as well. Now, before we do that, to make things easier, let's go ahead and create a page or a post in the Kadence theme so that we can be seeing that as we're making the changes to the customizer. So I'm just gonna temporarily get out of this here. I'm not gonna publish any changes that I've made. And we're gonna go to the dashboard, go to post, click on add new, and we're gonna skip that. And we're just gonna say, this is a sample post. And let's go ahead and grab some text. So I'm gonna go to my Lorem, just go to Lorem Ipsum generator on Google, and you can grab some text there. So here's some text right here. Just go ahead and grab this, and we're just gonna paste that in here, just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and publish this page. And then the other thing that I wanna do here, so if we go back and we look at the front end, you'll see that we have this right here. The other thing I wanna do is, this is a post. So the other thing I wanna do is I also wanna create a page. So I'm gonna go to new, just create a page, and we'll call this a sample page. Okay, and we're going to paste some text, publish, and view the page. All right, so that gives us a little link right here in our menu. So we have access to the sample page and access to the sample post. So let's take a look at our sample page. All right, so this is our sample page. So you can see the page header and the page content is right here. So now when we go to the customizer, we can actually see what it is that we're customizing. So let's go to the customizer again. And we had just finished covering the general tab. Now we're going to go to the header tab. So this is your header right now. And to customize this, you can do that with the header tab. So once you click on the header tab, there's this tray that opens up at the bottom here that represents the header. And when you open it up at first, you will notice that there are 3 rows for your header. Wherever you have an element in that row is what will be displayed in the header that you're looking at on the front end of the website. So right now in our header, we have a logo and we have the primary navigation. And over here on the left are the available items that you can add to your header. Now we're using the free version of Kadence. So in the free version, we only are limited to these 7 items. So you've got the 5 that we're not using here and then the 2 that are in the main row. So if we wanted to add more items, for instance, let's say we wanted to add a button, you would just drag that button from the left side panel here and move it over to anywhere you want it on the right. So if I add it here, it then adds a button for me and I can reorganize these as much as I want. So now the button's on over here on the right. To edit any element that you drag in here, simply click on the cog wheel or the settings wheel here. So if I wanted to make a change to this button, I would click on this and I can go ahead and make my changes if I want, or may I want to make change to my logo. I would click the settings on the logo element here. Now, the other thing that you can do as well is you can actually edit things directly or get to the settings directly by clicking on them. So if I go to the header, you see these pencil icons that show up. That gives me the ability to make changes to aspects of the header. This first one right here will give me the ability to make changes to the main row. That's this entire row right here. So I can select that. And let's say I wanted that row to be a dark color. I can click here and change the color to, let's say, a deep red, right? So now we can see that that's changed. And if I don't like it, I can go ahead and reset it by clicking the reset link. I can also have different colors for different screens or different responsive sizes. So I can have a color for, let's say I want the color that I want for the desktop version is going to be this color. And then I can select the tablet option and then change that color to red. And I can change the mobile color. Now you really wouldn't do this, but I'm just showing you what's possible. You can actually make responsive changes depending on which screen size you're looking at, right? So now I've made those changes. And if I go back to the desktop version, I can see it's this color. If I go back to the tablet version, it's now a red color, and the mobile version is now black, right? So I'm going to reset all that because I don't really want that. And let's go here, reset each one back to its default. There we go. Okay, so you have the ability to make changes. If I wanted to make changes to this button, I can go ahead and click on the edit icon here and it will make changes to the button for me. So all the settings for the buttons come up, the general settings, and then the design settings as well. So let's go back to our header actually, and I want to look at some of the options that are presented to you when you're adding elements to it. Okay, so you find all that stuff under the general tab. So we have a general tab and a design tab, and depending on which one you're in, you can make changes too. So if you're in the top row, then the changes you make here will apply to that top row. If you're in the bottom row, the changes you make here will apply to that bottom row. Now what's really great about having these 3 rows is now you can just put things in those rows. So for instance, if I want if I don't want my primary navigation to be in the same level as my logo, I can just drag that down to the bottom row and create a navigation this way. And so I can basically have a navigation that is below the header by doing that. I can also have a button on the same level as well. So if I drag the button there, then the button will come down and be on the same level as the navigation. Let's go ahead and put that back to where it was. So I'm going to go ahead and add the primary navigation back and add the button back. Now, when we get into the pro version of Kadence, you'll notice that there'll be a lot more elements to add, and that way you can customize the header to be even more than what you are seeing right here. And in these customizations, you have the ability to customize the desktop version, and you can go ahead and select the tablet version, and you can actually make changes to the tablet version that are different from the header version. So that's actually pretty cool. Here in the mobile navigation, we have off-canvas mobile navigation. You can also customize that, right? So if we click on this and we select a menu, you can actually add a different menu to the mobile navigation than you have in the regular desktop one as well. So let's go back to the desktop. Making changes to the header is really very easy. You simply drag and drop items on it. Now, if we scroll down here, there is an option for a transparent header. This is if you want to set up a transparent header for the entire website. You can do it individually per page, and we'll take a look at that. But here's where you would set up a transparent header for the entire website. So if I toggle this on, now the header is overlapping. You notice how the color disappeared? The header is now overlapping the page header now. And so here I can make all my changes. I can even create a different design for it. It can have its own logo, right? So I can choose a different logo for it. And I can enable it for mobile only or desktop only or both. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually disable that because we're not going to use that right now. And then you can also choose to have a sticky header, right? So if I toggle this on and I enable sticky header, I can enable it on all the rows, the main row, top row, the bottom row. So I want to do this for the whole header, and there's even more options, right? You can enable reveal sticky on scroll up, enable the main row shrinking, and have a different logo for the header that is stuck, which is pretty cool. Right. So, but for now, we just want to enable it here. You notice the header stays in place as I scroll through the website, right? I can also say, hey, I want it to shrink a little bit as I do that. So if we do this, you notice that it shrinks to 60 pixels. And if I want to choose a different logo, I can do that as well. So we're going to turn this all off. You can choose whether you want to enable this for your mobile devices or just have it only happen on tablet and desktop. So let's go back here. And let's take a look at our footer options, okay? So if we go to the footer, so right now in this footer, we're only seeing our copyright and the name of the theme. Well, again, you can make changes to it by clicking the pencil here, and it'll open up all the changes you can make here. So from here, I can go ahead and change this to whatever I want. So let's say I want to take this out. I may want to say, design by Clifton WP with Kadence. Okay, so I may want to say that. Okay, and you can hyperlink this if you want. Just highlight whatever text needs to be hyperlinked, click on the hyperlink icon, and then add your link, and it'll hyperlink it for you, right? Okay, so this is how we make changes here. But what about the actual footer itself? What if you want what's typically referred to as a fat footer? Well, you can see here, it's similar to how we had it with the heading or the header section. We also have the similar options with the footer section. So let's go back to our general options and take a look at what we have there. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the footer. So when you come here to the footer, you'll notice you have the footer navigation, which is a menu type that you could have. And then you have your social links. So if you remember earlier in the general layout, we were setting up our social, we could set up our social accounts. This is the module that you would basically pull in, and it would add those social links for you. So let's say I wanted to add my social links right here next to my copyright. No, I wouldn't want it there. I want it right next to it this way. So I added my social links right here next to my copyright. And we can see here, you already have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So if I click on editing this, this is where you can sort of set up what the icons will look like, but these will automatically be linked to whatever you had set up in your general settings. Okay, so let's delete that because we don't really want that. And then what about what we just saw earlier with the widgets? So this is where you can add widgets to your site. And what's really cool about this is I can say, okay, I want a widget in the middle row, and I'll add widget number 1 there. I will add widget number 2, and let's add widget number 3. And these widgets, you can put anything in these widgets. Typically how you put in widgets in the WordPress widget section, that's what this is addressing. So if I were to click on this first one right here, it actually will open up the widget areas, which now with Gutenberg, you can actually add blocks into the widget area. And it tells you that right here. So what does that look like? I'm going to click on Got It here. So here's what it looks like. I can add blocks here from Gutenberg. Now we haven't covered the blocks yet, but I just want to give you a good example. If I click on the plus sign here, and let's say I wanted to add a heading, and let's say this will be our contact and location. Okay, you can see right here in this footer area, it's starting to add that information for me. And then let's say we wanted to add our contact information. I'm just going to select the paragraph and let's paste in the text that we had here. And now our text is in place. And this is now in widget 1. I can then go over to widget 2 and do the same thing. Heading, about us, and we can add a paragraph. And then widget 3, so heading. And you can add any block here. By the way, it can be any kind of block. You can add row blocks and column blocks and do even further customization. And let's say here we're going to have a connect with us instruction. And just for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to add another paragraph text. So let's go ahead and take a look at what our site looks like now. So right here are our widget areas, and right here is our copyright information, right? So now that I've made these changes here, I can move these widgets around. So what if I don't want it in the middle row? I just want it on the top row. I can then drag it to the top. Okay. And wherever you put that information is where it will stay, right? And then if you notice under the widget areas, we have widgets 4, 5, and 6. We can add more widgets below here if we want to, or even all the way down here as well. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these. But this gives us the additional ability to add some information in our footer area. Okay, let's go back. And next, we're going to cover the page layout. In the Kadence theme, you can actually make changes to each page individually, and you can do page layout changes globally. So in the customizer, if you're making the changes there, understand that that's happening globally. And even though whatever you set up in the global section of it, in the customizer, you can actually make those changes more granular in the actual page itself. So when we go to the page layouts here, this has to do with how your pages look. So right now, if we're looking at the page, you can kind of see we have this page header with the title there. We have the page content, and then there's spacing in between that content. So the top and bottom spacing. And then our content is contained within this white section here. And that is a boxed section. So if we look at the very first option here, it says page title. We can actually turn off all the page titles by default on every page. And then you can turn them on in each page if you want, or you can leave this on and then turn them off in each page individually. So this is where you would control that. So if I toggle this off, then there will be no page titles for every page that you create, okay? When I turn it back on, then we now have the page title showing up in a page header. And then you can choose to have it like a header like this, or if you want it to be in content, just in the page layout, it will bring the header inside of the content area, okay? I kind of like it above the content area if I'm going to use this, and that way I can do things in this area right here, right? The title container width, you have standard, full width, or contained. So if I set this to full width, then it's all the way across, and you may not notice that unless you align the title of the page. So if I align this, you notice I'm aligned all the way here. If I make it standard, it still looks the same, only because my page here is really contained within this area. And this is the contained version. So you can see right here, this is the contained version. There's a little spacing right there, right? So we want this to be, let's just leave it at standard, and let's center our page title. Then the title container minimum height. So right now we have a minimum height of 200, but we can reduce this if we want. So if you wanted something a little more slim, you can do that, or you can leave it at the 200, or you can increase it. You can make it bigger if you want to. If you have a big image here that you like to showcase on your pages, you can do that. Then the title elements that you can actually see. So this is a page, right? And remember when we talked about breadcrumbs? So breadcrumbs are the links that follow precede a page. It's kind of like, think of it like a link tree, but in a horizontal fashion. So right here, I can see that we have the home page, and this is a child of the home page of your site, right? So it creates a breadcrumb navigation. Typically, you don't show this on the page. You usually will show this on the blog post. So you could, but you can toggle it on and off, and there are different things that you can do here, right? You can show the post title and breadcrumb if you want. So let's turn that off though, because that's typically not what we'll have on the page. And then the meta. So if you want to show the author of the page, right, that will show up there, but typically you don't show that either. You show the author and the date. Then you have page layouts, and here we have 5 page layouts that you can choose from. So this is the normal layout. This is the narrow layout, right? And you can change the width of this in the general settings, general layout settings. This is the full width layout. This is perfect if you're using a page builder. Kadence actually works with Beaver Builder, Elementor, and other page builders. And it also works with Gutenberg if you want. And in this deep dive that we're doing, we're going to be focusing actually on Gutenberg for the page building experience. And then if you're using a sidebar, you can select the left, the sidebar being on the left, or you can set it up on the right. And there may be instances where you want to use a sidebar. For instance, if you have an opt-in that you want to showcase, or if you're doing a e-commerce website and you want to showcase additional products on a sidebar, you can utilize that. For the most part, I tend to never use a sidebar on the pages because I really build focus pages, but that's entirely up to you. All right, and then here is a selection for the default page sidebar. You can have sidebar 1, right? So let's look at what that looks like. So if I look at here and I want sidebar 1, or I can have sidebar 2, right? So there are 2 sidebars that you'll find in the widget area, and you can select which one that you want to show as a default. Okay, but again, that's if you're using sidebars. Let's go back to the normal setup here. Then your content style. So do you want it boxed, which is how it is right now, or unboxed? So notice unboxed, it is completely contained within the content area, and the content area is flush against every other area. Or if you make it boxed, then you will have this sort of padding going across it, and the content is now boxed within the page. Okay, you can enable this vertical padding right here. So you see you have padding up here and padding right here. You can disable it entirely so that it's flush against the page header, or you can choose to have it on the top only or only on the bottom. And then the other thing is, if we had a featured image, if I toggle this on, it now shows my featured image on the page, and you can see now it's contained in the full page. And what I'm going to do here, just so we can see this well, is I'm going to select the narrow version so that we can see this very well. So you can see here the content, and here's showing our featured image. And then you can actually put it behind your text, which is pretty cool. So you kind of get this layout by default without having to do any kind of styling or customization. And mind you guys, this is in the free version of Kadence. Okay, let me go ahead and toggle off the title here so that it pushes it up a little bit. But you can see you have this really beautiful layout when you do it this way. It's one of my favorite layouts to do. And you can do it below. Now what the below does is it actually puts it in kind of a boxed area like that. So it's not that it's putting it below your text, below your content. That would be strange, but it just puts it below the content area in here, right? So behind, to me, is the best looking one, but of course the choice is entirely yours. Then you can actually choose the featured image ratio. So do you want it to be 1:1, where it's almost like a square, 4:3, which is kind of this nice layout here, 3:2, which is the default that it comes with, 16:9, this is what people are used to when they're having a more landscaped type of image, and then 2:1 is even narrower, right? So I tend to keep it right here. Okay, this is totally fine. And then you can choose to toggle on comments on your pages or not. That shows us how we use the featured image. I'm going to go ahead and toggle out of this. What about the design options? Okay, so if we go over to the design tab, so remember in some of these customizer options, there is a design tab. If you go to design tab, this is where you can make changes to all the different things that you configured in the general tab. So your breadcrumb colors, fonts, meta colors, the site background, and the content background. And what's great about these backgrounds, for instance, so I'm going to go back to the general. I'm going to toggle on the page title here, and let's go to design. And if we go back here, right? So if we go back here to the page backgrounds, you'll notice that the page title, you have the option of having a color. So I could say, well, I want this to be a red color, right? Or it could be a gradient, which is pretty cool. So I could say, okay, I want it to be a gradient. So I'm going to select a gradient color. Let's choose this color, and let's just leave it like that. That looks great, right? So you can choose to have a gradient, or you can choose to have an image, right? So you come here, you select your image, and let's select that. And now we have an image right there, right? And then you can now go back on your page title font. All right, so let's close out of that. Go back on your page title font, and I can then add, oops, a color. I lost my image. Let's go back, put that image back. So image, okay. Right, so now we have this this classic type of header style where you have the image on the background and you have the title on the foreground. Okay, and this looks really nice, right? So, and then you can do an overlay color on top of that. And what I love about the overlay color is I can actually choose to do a gradient overlay color if I want, right? So I can click here, and let's say I like this color right here. This is my overlay. Now you may be thinking, well, I can't, you know, I did the overlay and I can't see, I now cannot see that image. Well, that's because our overlay is at 100%. So if I click here, and notice when I selected that color, I can reduce that and it will start to show the background color in the background with the overlay on top of it. That is actually pretty nice right there. Okay, so you can also have a border on your page title, and then the site background, you can change that, and you can change the content background. So remember, the site background is pulling from the default palette right now, but you can come in here, you can change that background. I can make it black, so you can see now the background is black, and the content background, I can change that to a different color as well. I can just make it kind of a beige color. Okay, so we're going to reset all this because this looks very ugly now. But you can see the customization capabilities are endless, and you can create some really nice stuff just from the global settings that it has. So I'm going to set everything else back to where it was before. And that concludes making our page layout changes. So you can now see how to change the pages and customize them globally using the customizer. Next, we're going to look at our blog posts, then our search results, and then we're going to start building stuff. All right. Let's move over to the blog posts. Okay, so let's head back to our customizer options, and this time we're going to select the blog post. Now the blog posts layouts are fairly simple, and to make this easy, let's just go ahead and let's exit out of this, and let's go to the actual blog posts so we can see it. I'm going to select it here, and then I'm going to click on the customize, and we're going to select blog posts as a customizer option. So that way when we toggle some of these changes on and off, you can kind of see it real time in an actual blog post. So this is your blog post, and this is the current default layout that it comes with when you install Kadence. So if we click on the single post layout option, this will help us change our layouts to be however way that we want. So right here, you can see that the post title is always toggled on, and this is typical in a blog post. However, you can turn it off if you want to, and you will not have a post title. You can also change the post title layout. So right now, the default layout is within the content area, but we can actually create a page header type of blog post where it is on the very top here and has a page header of its own. And then you can choose to align it, align your post title in the center, and you can align every single one of these items in the center. So kind of like right now, the breadcrumbs are aligned. Sorry, the meta is aligned to the left. We can fix that. So right now what I'm going to do is just make sure that everything is aligned in the center this way, okay? Then same thing as in the page layouts, in the post layouts, you can also increase and decrease the size of the page header if you're going with that option. Now right here you can choose what you want to show. So by default the breadcrumbs are not showing. So sometimes you may want to do that for SEO purposes and have our breadcrumbs show up in our page header. And you can even change or reorder how these are presented, right? So I can actually move the title to the very top because that's how I would want it, right? And then I may want my breadcrumbs to be all the way to the bottom. So you can just go ahead and drag and drop that anywhere that you want, which is pretty nice. Next, you can make changes to the post layout itself. So right now we kind of have a narrow post layout, but you can actually make this wider, right? So there are 5 options that you have here. So I can do a wider post layout where it's more closer to the edges of the screen with padding on the left and right. You can go back to the traditional default layout. There's also a full width option for your layouts, and then you can have layouts with right and left sidebars if you want. And then same options apply that were in the page for your default sidebar for the sidebar 1 and 2. So you can choose which one that you want. And then the content style. So right now, naturally, you have a narrow content style, but you can also consider this as a box style. And this here would be an unboxed version, right? So in the unboxed version, the white part of the content area extends the full width of the page. You can also remove the vertical padding, and you can choose to have that on the top only or on the bottom only. I like to leave this as is on the blog posts. And then the same thing with the featured image thing that we did before, right? So if you choose to show the featured image, then you can have an image that's behind, below, and above, similar to how we had it with the page. And then your featured image width, now this is what's unique to the post layouts. You can have that stretch to the full width and or stretch wide. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this real quick, and let's add a featured image to our post. So I'm going to click on edit posts, and let's go to the featured image, and we'll select this image here, there, and update. And then when we view the post, we now have our image featured here in the sample post. Go to the customizer, and let's go to blog posts. And if we look at the single post here, and let's scroll down to the featured image, you'll notice that we now have a wide featured image option, and it's behind the post, right? So we can also make it above, and you also have the option of having it within the content area below the title. All right, but I like it behind. I think this is just a really cool layout. And then if you want it to stretch full, so you notice how it's kind of boxed in here, we can click on stretch full, and it will stretch the full width of the blog post page. And then what you can do is eliminate this padding at the top here if you want to have it look more aesthetically pleasing. So I'm going to go ahead and disable that, and now we have our blog post looking like this, right? So it's just really, really nice. And by disabling the content vertical padding, you now have this looking a lot more aesthetically pleasing. Now, don't confuse this with the header option, because you notice that the heading option is inside of the content area, right? But we'll cover that later. So below here, we have the featured image ratio, same thing. You can change the ratio of the image to your liking, and then here are additional options for setting up your post. Now, if we had more than one post in this install, then right below here, we would actually have the related post columns, and you can have 2, 3, and 4 columns, or you can choose not to even show columns at all. And then you also have your post navigation will also be here on the bottom. You can also disable comments on this, or showing comments if you want, or you can leave it on, and you can show the comment date or toggle that off as well. Now, back to what I was talking about. So you notice that the title right here is on the inside of the content area, and we have the featured image showing here at the top. But I didn't want you to confuse this with a page header or a post header for the post. So let me show you something real quick. Let's go ahead and toggle this to be in the center so that everything's in the center. And I want to show you the post layouts also have a page header option, right? So now we have the page header option at the very top here with the page header, and we have the featured image, and then we have the content. So within the featured image, there's no capability of you putting any information in here, right? So we don't have a way for you to be able to do that in Kadence. However, you can put a featured image right here in the post if you want to, and eliminate this one if you want. So this is just an option. It's not something that you have to do. But let me show you. I'm going to toggle this off. Okay, so now we have just our page header. And what I'm going to do is under the design options for the single post layout, I'm going to find my post title background. Okay, so if we scroll down, right here is the post title background. I'm going to select that, and I have the option of selecting the image to be the post title background. The other way to deal with this is you can also just toggle on use featured image for background here. And if I do that, then that featured image automatically shows up here. So you could have posts where you upload a featured image, add your other images within the post itself, and have the background of the post title background area be the featured image. If that makes any sense, right? So now you have a whole nother layout that you can also play around with. And of course you would change the colors on the text, on the title, and all that stuff is possible here, right? You can just go ahead and toggle that and see that way you'll be able to see everything that you're putting in here. So lots of design options for your posts to make them look really nice. Let's go ahead and just reset all this, and I'm going to turn this off. And if we go back to the general settings and we toggle our featured image back on, and then we also can set our post title layout back to the way it was. All right, so now you can see that you have a lot of great options for designing your posts just with the free version of Kadence and without using a page builder or any other kind of thing at all. So it's actually pretty power packed and very good attention to some of the design details that you may want to use straight out of the box with the install of the theme. All right, now there is one other thing that I do want to cover, so let's get out of this and let's go to our archive layout. Now if you want to see the archive layout here, their options are similar to what you have with the single post page layout, but this is regarding the archive layout. So to see that, let's go ahead and close out of our customizer. I won't save any of the settings that we've put so far. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the front end of the website. So when you look at the front end of the website, if I had more than one blog post here, we would have multiple blog posts showing up here. And this is the archive layout for that. So basically an archive is a collection of all your posts put together. And the customizer setting controls how that is laid out. So to make this easier for us to understand, we're going to go ahead and create 2 more additional blog posts that are identical to this one. That way, when we're making the changes to the archive layouts, you can see what that looks like. Great. So now when we go to the front end of the website, we'll see we have now 3 posts. Okay, awesome. So now if you click on the customizer again and we go to the blog posts archive layout, this is what we're looking at here. The archive is actually this. So the archive is the category. Okay, it's the category, and when you click on that, every different category will have an archive like this. So you can set up your global settings for all categories. So right now the category is uncategorized because that's what comes by default in WordPress, but we could change this into anything. So now that we're looking at it, this is what this area controls everything you see here. So the same thing, we can have in content title versus a page header. I like the page header option with the title there. And then all your alignment options are here. The container minimum height, right? So I can make this big or small. Just leave it just where it is right now. And then you can choose to show breadcrumbs. I choose to not show breadcrumbs, and you can have a title and a description. And then your archive layout, right? So right now we have the normal layout, which is perfect because this is just a traditional layout. If you wanted to make this more narrow, you could, but then your text would be narrow, and full width is also good because now you have a much bigger, more prominent layout for your archive. And I don't recommend the left sidebar or right sidebar, although you can do it, and that the option is there. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to do so. Same thing with the archive default sidebar, but now I want to point out to this content style. So right now we have the content style and the boxed version is selected. You can have an unboxed version, right? And then you can also choose the post archive column. So right now we have this set to 3, but you could have set it, we could have set it to 2 if you want, and you can even set it to 1 if you want as well. So you have these huge images here. Now, if you did set it to 1, that could justify you having a narrow layout, but I think 3 is good. It's standard and it's what you'll see everywhere else. Then what about the elements that show up in each archive post? So we've got the featured image. That's what these are, and you can actually toggle these on or off. So I can turn, if I don't want to show the categories, I can turn that off. If I don't want to show titles, I can turn that off, or might as well leave it on. And then there's the meta, and then the excerpt, and then the read more. You can turn this off and on if you want to. Now under these, some of these have additional options. So for instance, right here, if you don't want it to say read more, you can change it to something else. Like some people like to say continue. The default is read more. Then you can also deal with the content, how much of the excerpt do you want to show? So what if you only want to show 25? And then on the meta, you can choose what options, portions of the meta you want to show on here. So we have here the author, and then we also have the date, and then author, enabling the link and all that. You can turn all this off. You can hide the author if you want to, and if you only want to show the date, then you can show the date, right? You can also add a date label, right? So I can say showing date, and we can click turn this on. It says posted on, or we could say written on if you want, right? If you want to have some different text there. All entirely up to you. Lots of customization options to make everybody happy, right? And then you can also choose a divider. So let's turn this all this back on, and let me show you what the divider looks like. So right now we have this divider as a dot, but you can also have it as a slash, a dash, an up and down slash, or a clock. Very nice. And then in the categories, you can also customize that as well. And then a featured image, you can choose how you want your featured image to display, right? So I can have these be 16 and 9, or 2 and 1, or if I want it to be square, it can be square. Just lots of great options here for everybody to be able to use. So you can see the options, the customization options for the archive is actually quite extensive. All right, so that will conclude the portion where we take a look at the customizer and we look at all the options we have for blog posts. And for our last two, we're just going to run through these really quickly. So let's look at the search results. So when people do a search on your website, you can tailor how you want those search results to appear, and you'll notice that a lot of the settings are very similar to the settings that you have for your category archive. So your results will show up like this when people do a search. If you look at the site identity, this is where you add your logo and where you can add your favicon. Favicon is the item that shows up right here. By default, it is the WordPress logo, but you can change that yourself by going into the site title logo. And here, if you see where we have the logo aspect of it, you can go ahead and click on the cogwheel here, and you can add a logo of your own. You can choose the logo layout. So if you want just the logo by itself, it will take away the text. You can have a logo and title, it will have the title, and you can have the logo, title, and tagline, right? So we can have our tagline right there if we want to. And then you can change how these are ordered, right? So I can have everything to the left-hand side. I can have it on the bottom. So if I had a logo, you'd see that actually showing up there. I don't have a logo to show on this one for right now. And then down here is the site icon. So if I click on the site icon, I can then select an icon to replace this here. And then your site is pretty much ready. And at this point, you would have covered everything that has to do with the Kadence free version of the theme, right? So everything else is pretty much standard. That concludes everything that you can customize with the free version of the Kadence theme. Next, what we're going to cover now is we're going to cover the pro version. We're going to cover adding Kadence Blocks, both the free version and the pro version of Kadence Blocks. And we're going to do some really cool things with the theme, including installing starter templates and actually working with an actual website. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. So there are two companion plugins that you'll want to install with your Kadence theme that will pretty much give you full range of all the development capabilities that you need, and they're free. There are also pro versions of these plugins as well, and I'll leave the descriptions for everything, for all the pro versions, in the description of this video below. So feel free to go there and check out the pro versions, and we'll talk about the pricing and the differences and the benefits of those things in a little bit here. But I want to show you those two plugins and how to quickly install them and how to start benefiting from them right away. So first, let's go ahead and go back to, we're going to exit out of our customizer now. We're going to leave all our settings at the default. So we're not going to save any of those settings that we made. And we're going to go back to the dashboard. I want you to go to plugins, and we're going to click on add new. And from here, I want you to do a search for Kadence Blocks. When you run this search, you will find Gutenberg Blocks by Kadence Blocks. And this will add page building features to your Kadence theme that are based on Gutenberg, which is the default block builder for WordPress. So we're going to go ahead and install that now. We're going to click on activate. And now you'll notice that we now have these Kadence blocks. So the blocks that this comes with in the free version is the row layout, the form, advanced gallery, advanced button, icon, space divider, advanced heading, tabs, info box, accordion, icon list, and testimonials. And these are kind of like a super powered version of the Gutenberg block editor. And let me show you exactly what I mean. If I go to a, let's go to a page and let's look at a page that we've already created. I'm going to click on this page here. So now that we're in this page, the way Gutenberg blocks works is that it works with taking each page or post and building it in a block-based fashion. So everything becomes a block. So for instance, your text here is a block, right? So this is a paragraph block. And to see all the blocks that are available, just click the plus sign right here and you'll see all the blocks. Now, because we've installed Kadence Blocks, we now have these new additional blocks. So here are your traditional blocks. And now we have these 18 new blocks. And some of them may look like replicants of existing blocks already, but let me show you the difference. So for instance, we have in the normal default Gutenberg block editor that comes with WordPress, we may have headings. And what you can do is you could just drag this over and drop it into your page. And your heading is now in place. Whoops, actually, I don't think that dropped in. Let's go back. I want to drag in this heading. So let's add that right here below this text. So here's our heading block that we have added to our page. And if you look here to the right, you'll see some customization options. And if you look above here, there's a toolbar with additional customization options. So for instance, I can change this heading. I can choose to have this be a H1 or H3, H4, H5, right? I can align it to the center of the page if I want to. And then below here are additional options for me to use with this heading. And then over here on the right are customization options. So I have font size, line height, color, right? I can change the color. And I also have text settings where I can create a drop cap out of my heading. So let's just say this is a regular Gutenberg, let's call this regular Gutenberg heading. Okay. So you can see all the options that it comes with. I'm going to line this back to the left. All right. And then there's the advanced breaking out HTML anchor. And that is it. That is really all the options that you get with the traditional Gutenberg. Now let's go ahead and add a Kadence Blocks heading. Okay. Now mind you, this is in the free version. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to select advanced heading. And I'm going to drag that over and put it right below the Gutenberg heading. And then we're going to label this. This is the Kadence Blocks heading. Okay, and they look pretty similar, but I want you to notice the difference. The first difference that you'll notice is that the options you get in the mini toolbar here are vastly different in the Kadence version than it is in the traditional Gutenberg version. So on this one, we have the ability to change the type of H tag it is, to be able to change the alignment, right, of where the heading will go, bold it, italicize it, and hyperlink it. But with Kadence Blocks, we actually have the ability to change, same thing, the type of H tag it is, but we also have the ability to change typography settings right in here. We have the ability to change the color right in here as well, alignment settings, and we can also copy the styles. We also have the bold and italicizing. And then if we move over to the right, where we have all the additional customizations, you'll notice that we have way more customization options. Heading color, heading background color, font size, line height, additional typography settings, highlight settings, right? So if I wanted to highlight a portion of this, I could go ahead and click on highlight and just a portion is highlight. That capability is also available in the traditional one as well. So I can come here and change the highlight. But when I highlight this and I click on that I want this to be highlighted, it actually highlights the background of it, right? This actually highlights the text on Kadence. And then here's a question I have. For the traditional Gutenberg one, where do I change the color of the highlight, right? So there's no option here for me to change that color. At least I'm not seeing it. Okay, so but in Kadence, everything is just so clear and carefully thought out, and there are so many options. So right here, if I wanted to change my heading highlight settings, I can just come here, click here, and boom, I can change it to any color that I want. Right, I can make this a bright blue if I want, and now my heading highlight color is here. Okay, so the Kadence Blocks heading, advanced heading, is far more superior to the traditional Gutenberg one, and that's why I like Kadence Blocks. It just enhances everything else and gives you more customization options. So let's look at the rest of the blocks that we get in Kadence Blocks. So we have a space divider, advanced button, row layout. So the row layout is what allows you to be able to set up a structure in a page. So if I drag this in here, I can now create different rows, similar to what you would do in a page builder, right? So now I can create different rows that will have columns, and then I can put different blocks in each column here. Okay, so I can go ahead and click here, and I can add an advanced heading in that block if I want to, or if I don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and remove that. I can just drag the one that I just created here and drop it right into that column, just like that. Okay, so it's a really nice setup to be able to create columns very easily. Now Gutenberg does have its own columns capability right here, right? So you can create columns in Gutenberg, but again, if you look over here to the right, okay, we will notice that your options for these columns are very limited, right? The column settings, you can change the width, and that's about it, and the color, and that's about it. But with Kadence Blocks row editor here, so with this row, and we can see what we have here by opening up the layout tree by clicking these three buttons up here. But when we look at the rows option for Kadence, you will notice that, I'm going to go ahead and just move this out of the way so that we can, let's put it right there. All right, great. So with the rows on Kadence, with the Kadence row layout, we have far more options. We have responsive options, layout options, padding, margin, background settings, overlay options, dividers, text colors, structure settings. It's just so much more. It's just so much more dynamic. So you're going to find that you'll have a much easier time using Kadence Blocks to build out your pages than you will using the traditional Gutenberg plugin as of now, right? Traditional Gutenberg plugin is still in development, but the Kadence Blocks editor, and there are many other Gutenberg block editors coming out, but it's just far ahead of the curve for what Gutenberg has to offer. Okay, so Kadence Blocks is going to be your go-to if you're using Kadence, as recommended go-to to be able to build out your pages. Okay, and I can say the same for many other blocks that they have. A lot of cool blocks, icon blocks. My favorite is the info box block, of which when you drop that in there, you get an info box, and you get to be able to have an icon or an image, a title, and some text all in one block already grouped together and ready for you to use. All right. So, but there is something else I do want to show you about Kadence Blocks that you get. So you'll notice that when you install Kadence Blocks, you do get a few new items. The first one is this design library tab. Okay. Now, when you go to edit a page, and let's just go ahead and get rid of everything that we have here real quick. I just want to show you something. So I'm going to highlight all this. Whoops. Highlight everything we have here. Click delete. When you install the Kadence Blocks plugin, you get the design library from Kadence. And what the design library is basically pre-created sections and packs and even a wireframe capability for you to install in your pages or to help you build out pages a lot faster. And these are really cool. Now, the wireframe option is fairly new, but I'm going to start with the wireframe, and then we'll go back and look at all these different sections later. And the reason I like to start with the wireframe is because the wireframe gives you a way to quickly build out your pages without any styling, right? So you start with a wireframe so you know what you're building, and it contains a series of blocks and layouts that you can use to be able to do that. When you first install the Kadence Blocks plugin and you go to use a wireframe option, it'll tell you to go ahead and subscribe for access. So just go ahead and accept the privacy policy, click subscribe for access, and you'll have access to these wireframes. And these are some really cool wireframes. You can have a website laid out in no time with these wireframes. And let me show you exactly how this works. This is a lot of fun. So first, when you come here, you can look into the category and you can see the different categories. So we have content, promotional, pricing table, footer, gallery, portfolio, card, testimonial, countdown, and form. So let's go ahead and lay out a page here really quickly. So I want to create, why don't we create a featured area, right? So we want to create a featured area. I'm going to select the content version so to kind of filter this down a little bit, and you can see different areas here where you can have a content area. So which one works best for a content area? Well, look, this looks like something for a content area. Any of these would work good, but let's just pick something traditional that we're used to. So let's click this one. And now we have this content area. So next, we might need somewhere to describe some benefits, right? So again, I'm going to go back into my design library, and I'm going to select something that will lay out some good benefits for me. So for instance, we may choose, here we go. Some benefits right there. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, this is great. And then next, let's add some more. So let's just add a bunch of these to the page. And you can add anything you want in any layout you want. So here's a really good layout here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab, this looks very interesting right there. And then let's grab a couple more. So let's grab a, let's grab this one. And then I also want a pricing table. Should be very nice to have. So choose a plan. And then I'm going to grab something for, say, frequently asked questions. So FAQs, right? So let's see if we could do a search FA. There we go. Frequently asked questions. All right. And then I'm going to click update. And so when we go now and we view this, all right, we actually have a fully built out page for us that we can then replace with our own content, right? So if you already know the layout of what you want to create, you can use the wireframe feature to go ahead and do that. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is if you look at this now, this is our sample page and we've got this page header here and all this padding. Let me show you how to fix that. If you go to edit page, at the very top here are different options. This option controls the page and block access. Okay, right here will control the page settings. So those similar settings that we saw in the customizer, we can now apply to just this page by clicking on page settings. And then I'm going to do a couple of things here. So on the page title, I'm going to disable that. Because we're using the page builder functions of this, I'm going to make this a full width page. Then I'm going to go to the content style and I want this to be unboxed. And then I'm going to get rid of the vertical padding here, and then everything else I'm going to leave alone. I'm going to update this, and if we go and view the page, you'll notice that now we have a full-blown page already built out. Okay, and it actually looks really nice. All we need to do now is just add our colors and add our own content, and in just a few minutes you have a full page already built out. So that's what's really awesome about using the wireframe capability in Kadence. All right, let's go back and let's look at some of the other tabs that come with the the Kadence Blocks design library. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just select everything here again and get rid of all of this. And if you ever want to get rid of things really fast, a really good way to be able to do that is if here where you see these three dots, click on this, go to the code editor. It turns everything into code. Highlight everything, Control A, and delete, or Command A if you're using a Mac. Click delete. Update your settings, then come back here, put everything back to the visual editor, and you now have a blank slate that you can use again. All right, great. So now we're going to go back to our design library, and now we can look at sections. So what I just did with the wireframe, you can now do with sections. Now these are a little bit more fleshed out, so these will look a lot better. So let's look at some areas. Let's look at the hero area, and I do have a tutorial where I show you how to build your own custom hero areas. I'll link that in the description below. Check that out. You can create some of these amazing hero areas from scratch. So we're going to come here and we're going to select the hero area, and I'm just going to select I'm going to select this one. I like this right here because it's got the buttons in the middle. So you're going to create your hero area right here, and then you can, same thing, you just keep adding different sections based on what you are trying to build out. Anywhere where you see there's a pro label means that you need the pro version of the Kadence Blocks plugin to access those. But to be honest with you, there are so many different layout options that are available already for free. So you may be able to just build out your pages without having to go and get the pro version. But if you do want to get the pro version, I do recommend it. I have it. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, so let's go ahead and add some sections. So I'm going to add this section here, and then I'm going to go back and I want to add a team section as well. And I'm just picking random sections to add. Let's add a contact form. That looks good. And let's add one more section. Let's add one more cool section here. Let's see here. What is good? Let's add this one. This is nice. And I saw one more that I really like. I think we'll go good with this one. Okay, so we now added our sections. So now our section is now added. And if we look at the website now, we now have a website fully built out. Now you may think, oh, some of this kind of seems out of order, and it looks like this is another team section. Maybe you don't like certain sections that you have. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and open up our layout tree, find a section that you don't like. So if I come here, I like that section, and let's see, I like that section. Let's see, what about this section right here? These are panes. So right here, maybe I don't like this accordion section right here. So I'm gonna select that, click here, click on remove block, and now that section is gone. And then I'm gonna look here, and then maybe we have this contact section right here. I can shift that down so that it's all the way at the bottom. And this section right here where it's showing the benefits, this row layout here, I'm gonna select this row layout, and I wanna shift that all the way to the underneath the hero area. Now this looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and click update. I'm going to close out the layout tree and view the page. And now we can see the website that we have put together, right? So this looks pretty cool. All right, now we're going to go back, edit the page, and we'll look at that last tab, which are the starter packs tab. And I think this part is the most exciting part of what Kadence has to offer. So, and this is remember, we're still talking about the free version of Kadence here. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. Come here, go to the code editor. So it's easier to just select everything, click on update, and then revert it back to the visual editor and update that. And now we're going to go to back to our design library, and we're going to look at starter packs. So starter packs are basically layouts in pages of templates. Some of these are full-blown websites that Kadence has built. And you can basically install these on your website. And there's one for different categories of websites. So this is one for restaurants. Here's one for an event. Here's one that's an e-commerce version one. This is on their pro side. On the pro side, they have a membership version. They have one for apps. They have one for freelancers, attorneys, web designers, real estate agents. There's just a ton of huge, amazing value in here. Even if you have an online course, you could set one up for your online course. And it's already laid out and designed beautifully for you. So let's go ahead and install one of these and then explore what it looks like. So when you click on one, let's say we like this events one. I'm going to click on this events one. Okay. It shows you all the pages that are contained in this pack, and you can go ahead and install them individually, right, onto your site. So for instance, let's say I really like the home page. So I am looking for the home page. Here's the home page. Click on that. And now that home page is now installed fully into the site, okay? The entire thing. I'm gonna go ahead and update this, and let's go ahead and view this on the front end. And you can see we now have the home page in, okay? And everything's built out. You just need to put in your own information, add your own colors, and add your own images, and you are ready to go, okay? So this is how adding the starter packs work, and all the starter packs are available in the free version of Kadence, and there's some pro starter packs that are available as well, but you will need a pro license to be able to get those in. But this actually is already looking good, and you notice when you install it, it takes on the color scheme of the site. So whatever color scheme you set up is what it will take on. All right. Awesome. So that covers Kadence Blocks. So get in there, play around with it. It's a lot of fun. it works very well. I'm gonna go here and edit this page. And I'm going to reset everything back by going to the code editor, selecting the entire code, deleting that. And now I want to show you the second plugin that we're going to be exploring. Let's set this back to the visual editor. There we go. And update. And I'll show you the second plugin that we're going to be talking about. That plugin is going to be the Kadence Starter Templates. It's very different from the design library. The design library gives you access to individual packs, individual pages, individual sections. Now the Kadence Starter Templates, that gives you access to full-blown websites. So let's check that out. Okay, so let's go to the dashboard. Now in the dashboard, when you install the Kadence theme, it'll tell you to install the Kadence Starter Template. So we can install it from here, or you can also go to plugins, because it is a plugin. You can go to plugins, add new, and you can search for the Kadence Starter Templates there if you want. So if you're not seeing this here, maybe you close it out or something like that, you can always get to it from here. So we're gonna go ahead and install it from here. And this is again a free plugin. So you see here, the only two plugins that we have installed are the Kadence Blocks and the Kadence Starter Templates. And then if we view the template library, okay, it asks you to choose a builder. And currently the templates work with Gutenberg and Elementor. And because I like to focus on Gutenberg, simply because I just get better performance out of it, I'm gonna select Gutenberg, and it'll show you all the layouts that are available. Now these look similar to what we saw in the blocks, Kadence Blocks design library. The difference between those and this one is that in this case, you're looking at installing the entire website, right? Not just installing a page here or installing an about page. You actually have the option to install just a single page or the full website. So what does that mean? That means that the header, right, and the footer will also be included in this install along with all the pages should you choose the full site. All right, so let me close out of this here and let's just select a different site. I want to select one that's a little bit more dynamic so that I can show you all the differences of what happens when you select these. So you have a lot to choose from, but let's choose something that will help us demonstrate the power of the Kadence Starter Template. So let's select this one. And when you select it, over here on the left, you'll see where you can change the color scheme of the site. So right now, this has its own default color scheme, which looks really nice. I believe it's this one here in the middle. But I can also change this here and take a look at what it looks like with a different color scheme. I can select this one here, and you have all these different options of color schemes that you can use, which is really nice. You can also choose a dark mode, right? So if you want a dark color scheme where everything is on the dark side, you can do that. And there are two options there, right? So this one really pops. This is really nice. All right, and then if you don't like any of these, you can just reset it to its default color scheme. The other thing that you can change as well is the font family. So I can choose some predetermined fonts if I want in here. And if I want things to be a little bit more stylish, I can do that. Or if I want everything to be just nice and plain, I can also do that as well. And then you can also reset these. Then the other thing that it's going to say is it's going to ask you, it's going to let you know that it's going to install some plugins for you that go with this website. So again, this is a full-blown website. So what is this? This is a course website, right? It's a course that's training people how to build web design skills. So if we click on the course page here, right, you can see that it has the LearnDash plugin installed, and that's what it's using to display the course. The about page is already built out, and the contact page as well is already built out with a form and everything. So since we don't have LearnDash installed, it's telling us, hey, we're going to install LearnDash in order for us to install this theme. All right, great. Let's look at a couple of different other ones as well. Let's look at this events one that we looked at before. So when you select this, you'll notice that this has a transparent header and a button call to action over here. So this is pretty cool. But again, just like the last one, we can go ahead and change the color scheme, right? And you're noticing that the button colors are changing here, right? That one looks really cool. and we can select any color scheme that best suits our design preferences. And you can set your own color scheme. You can change this after you've selected it if you want, right? So let's go to dark mode here, and then we can reset it so that it's back to the default color scheme that it came with. Same thing in terms of changing the text pairing, the font pairing. You can change that here as well. Okay, so very, very nice layout over here as well. Now, what are the options? There are no other options that are imported with this one. So all you need here are the Kadence blocks, which is already active. And so it will import that for us automatically. Let's look at one more and then we'll go ahead and import one. So the one that I want to take a look at here is, let's see here. Let's see something really cool. This one right here. Okay. So this is a really nice one. And I like it because it's got this changing slider effect on the back with a image here on the front. And same thing, I can change the color of, you know, the highlighted items if I want, right? So you can see all that is changing, and I can also change the font. So let's go ahead and reset it to what it was before, and then import options are just Kadence blocks. So let's go ahead and import this one and play around with it. So what you do is once you find a layout that you are happy with, you can go ahead and choose to import just a single page or the full site. I want to import the full site. So when you click on that, it will tell you full site importing is designed for new and empty sites with no content. So we definitely fit the bill. And then here are some import details to let you know what's being imported. You can choose to import the customizer settings and import the content. I want to do all of it. And then here we go. You can subscribe and start importing. So I'm going to go ahead and subscribe, and we'll give it a few minutes and it'll go ahead and import the entire website. Okay, so now we're fully imported and we can go ahead and view what the website now looks like. And you'll see now that the full website is now imported in here. Let's go ahead and refresh this here. All right, and so when we come here, you can go ahead and let's say we edit this page. And oh, it looks like this didn't import correctly. That's easy to fix. So we're going to attempt block recovery, and that is now imported correctly now. Okay, so now you can see all the elements that are imported. Here's what I recommend. Click on the layout list view here, and you can see how they have laid out this page. This will give you a clue and an idea on how you may want to lay out some of your pages, right? So everything here is laid out for you and looks really, really nice and well organized. So you can pretty much navigate to any area of the website. If you have a question, if you maybe you want to know, well, here's a good question. How do they do this slider thing right here, right? So how was this done? Where you have the images are sliding around, are changing while the forefront is staying in place. Well, the way to do that is you click on that section, and you see here that the section is now highlighted. And I want to click on the row layout. And now that I've clicked on the row layout, I'm going to close this out. I'm going to open the settings here so I can see what's happening with this row. So I know this is a background of some sort. So I'm going to go to background settings, and I can see that they have a background slider. So this is really just a slider. And you can see all that there are 3 sliding images sliding around. And when you click on edit image, it will show you what those images that are sliding are. So it looks like those images are right here. So here's one of those images right here. Here's another one. Here's another one. And here is another one. So you now know how they were able to create those these capabilities of having everything slide like that. Really, really cool feature. Really, really neat layout. And you can do the same thing for all the other portions of the layout. So back to showing you that this is a full-blown website. So I'm going to click update here, and we're going to go back to the front end of the website here. So when you look at the website, you can see now we have this custom header, right? It still has our information here, but now there's a logo and there's our information right here. All right, so now you can go ahead and start customizing. So let's say I want to customize this header. I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to my header right here. And maybe I don't like the way this is set up. So I can click on the logo setting here, and we've got a logo. I can replace this with my own logo, but maybe I only want the logo to show up. So I'm going to select just the logo only. And now I only have the logo showing up. Okay. The navigation is already set up here, and you know, maybe I don't like the colors of this navigation. So I'm gonna come here to design, and maybe I want to swap this around. So I want my navigation color to be that, and I want my hover color to be black. And then I want my active colors to be also black. Okay, so, and then I can go ahead and publish this, and now you notice that this is now changed, right? Let's go ahead and reset that back to what it was, because that was actually fine the way that it was. All right, so same thing with the footer, right? I can make changes now to the footer if I want to. So I can come over here, go to the footer layout, and I can see how they have the footer set up. So I can see here we have widget 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can see how they have these all set up for you. And then we have they have the social icons right there as well. And so in here we can go ahead and make changes to any one of these that we want. Simply click on the gear box right here, and you can see what they have used to create this footer, and you can just simply go in there and make your changes yourself. All right, so this is a full-blown website, and you installed it in just a matter of minutes. We can look at every single page. Every single page is already fleshed out. Just need to replace it with your own design or your own colors, your own images, and your own text. But everything is here and nicely laid out for you. We have accordions laid out for you really nicely, and so on. And you can do this with a number of pages. Now, one thing I do want to tell you is, say you install this one and you decide, well, I really don't want to use this one. I really want to use something else. No problem. Simply go back to the dashboard, go to Appearance, under Kadence, select Starter Templates. And from here, you can select the one that you prefer. So this is a new one that I know they just released. So go ahead and click on the burger one. So maybe we want this burger one. And I think I like it just the way that it is right here. I'm going to come here. I'm going to say, go ahead and install this full site. So when you click here, it's going to ask you, do you want to delete the previously imported posts and pages? The answer is yes. Delete all that information. I'm going to accept the privacy policy and subscribe and start importing. And then now it's going to import. So now it's fully imported the new website. Let's go ahead and view the finished version of the site. And you can see the old site is now gone and the new restaurant website is now in place. And this is a very, very nice layout. So as you can see, the Kadence Starter Templates is very powerful. With the templates, you can basically install and really build out full-blown websites very, very quickly. The only thing you need to do would be to just swap out the content for your own content. Now, personally, I like to build my websites from scratch, but I have to say that Kadence has really gone the extra mile in making sure that people can sort of set up websites using the free version of the theme. So it's a lot of value even in their free stuff. All right, so next up, what we want to do now, what I'm going to cover with you now is what comes in the pro version. If this is what comes in all the free stuff, all the free aspects of Kadence, what do you get when you get the pro version of Kadence? Well, there's a lot of great value that comes with that, and I'm going to show you that here next. So far in this deep dive, we've been looking at Kadence Theme, the free version. We've looked at the Kadence Blocks, the free version, and we've also looked at Kadence Starter Templates, the free version. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit and start taking a look at the pro version of the plugin. Now, you can use the free version to really build out really cool websites, and it's probably more than enough to do many things that you would want to do for yourself or for a client. The pro version is for people that want to take things a little bit further and who want to have more customized features. There's a lot of benefits that come with the pro version of Kadence. For instance, the ability to have dynamic content is something that's relegated to the free version of Kadence Blocks. And also, how about the ability to have extra elements and hooks hooked in, have Modal windows and so on. And we'll look at all those different things here as we start going through the tutorial. But one of the things that I want to do really quickly is I want to explain to people, how do you get the pro version of Kadence themes? So if you go to the Kadence website and you look under products, you will see a link there called the Kadence theme. So this will actually point you to the pro version of the theme. What's interesting is that the pro version of the theme is not actually a theme, but more of a add-on. So it is a plugin add-on. It is not an actual theme itself. So that add-on basically gives you certain types of benefits. So if I click on the pro link here, all right, it gives you premium features. So let's just take a look at what these premium features are. One is that you get 20 new header elements to choose from. So remember, in the free version, you only had 7. Now you get 20 new elements to choose from, and some of these elements include having extra HTML areas, extra buttons, widget areas, dividers, account icons, and so on. The next thing that you get is you also get hooked elements. Now, hooked elements are the ability for you to add certain blocks or layouts to existing layouts, right? So, and you can display them in any location. We'll do a demo of this as we go through the pro version here. You can even replace your header and footer entirely. So if you don't want to use that header and footer section that we had and you want to completely customize header and footer, hooked elements is how you're going to be able to do that. Then the other one is having a mega menu, right? So if you want to have a mega menu capability, then that's in the Pro add-on. Then you can also have fixed elements. So we have fixed footers or showing certain elements by device or fixed banners. That is also in the Pro version. If you want to be able to add header and footer scripts, then you'll need the Pro add-on for that. And then there are WooCommerce add-ons as well that are included in the Pro version in the Pro add-on. So the WooCommerce ones, you get to be able to open a sidecart. You can build a custom shop page, and you can toggle on and off a shop widget area. It's some really, really nice stuff that comes with the Pro version of the thing. So what is that? That's about 6 capabilities in total with several sub capabilities included. Now, if you look at the Kadence pricing, Kadence does their pricing in bundles. Now, one of the things I love about Kadence, and these are indicative of all the plugins that I subscribe to, is one, they allow for use on unlimited websites. For me, this is very important because I run an agency, and in my agency, it's important that we have tools that we can use across the board for all our clients. They're one of the few houses that actually allow for unlimited websites. A lot of theme companies, a lot of page builder companies are going the route of saying that you will have 99, you can have up to 99 installs or 25 installs. But in their case, you get to be able to use all their tools on unlimited websites, no matter which bundle you subscribe to. The lowest Kadence Pro plugin theme add-on is $59 for you, and that's a year, $59 a year. So that's less than $5 a month for you to be able to use all those elements. The Essential Bundle is $129 for the year, and that allows you to include the Kadence Blocks Pro. So the Kadence Blocks Pro gives you additional blocks and capabilities. So let's take a look at that real quick. So if we look at the Kadence Blocks Pro, you get these premium blocks. You get an image overlay, video pop-up, the Modal, post-grid carousel, portfolio grid carousel, product carousel. You get to be able to have split content where you're showing content on one side, maybe like a before and after, and you can kind of slide that content around. You get an advanced slider, so you can create sliders right in the block editor, and any block can be placed in the slider. This is huge. So basically, you can put anything in your block row and then turn that into a slider. User info, being able to display information about the currently logged in user in case you have a membership site. Then you have Pro Gallery add-ons, Pro Countdown add-ons, and Pro Form add-ons. Things like automatically adding your subscribers to MailChimp services, MailerLite, and things like that. So there are a lot of great next level premium features that come in. Here are some of those premium features. You can animate on scroll. You have custom icons, dynamic content, which is huge. I'm actually making a tutorial on dynamic content, and I'm going to be demonstrating that using the Kadence Pro add-on. And then custom fonts, premium design library. So some of those designs that we didn't have access to in the free one, you do get access to them here. And then you can also have page-specific scripts. Just all in all, the Kadence Blocks Pro is better. Kadence Blocks is very good, but Kadence Blocks Pro is better. Okay, great. So enough about that. But if you want to subscribe to this, if you want to get the Kadence Blocks Pro, you can use this link right here, or there's a link in the description below, CliftonWP.com/Kadence, and it will take you to this website. And that is an affiliate link. It doesn't cost you any more to get it, but I do get a small commission for you picking up any one of these bundles. I highly recommend it, especially if you're going to be building websites for clients. But even if you're building it for yourself, these tools are really, really helpful. The full bundle is $199, and this also renews annually for this. Now, Kadence, in the full bundle, you get a host of their other plugins, but Kadence also has a lifetime bundle where you pay one fee. It's $599. That's something you have to think about for yourself. I personally am subscribed to a lifetime bundle for Kadence. So I get access to everything that they have, plus any future plugins that they release. And so far, everything that they've released has been top notch. All right, great. So now that we've covered how to get the pro version of Kadence Blocks and the Kadence Theme Pro add-on, let's go ahead and actually see how this thing works. Okay, so let's go back to our website, and what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to the site, and we're going to switch away from this burger website to a different website. So I'm going to close out of this, and the one that I want to utilize is this membership website template that comes with the Kadence Pro theme. So we're going to install this, and there's a reason I'm using this one, because it has a membership page that we're going to utilize to demonstrate some of the features of the Kadence Theme Pro add-on. So let's go ahead and install this one. Just click on full site, and this will start to install. And it looks like it's already installed here. So let's take a look at it from the front end. Okay, great. So now we have this website that we're going to be working with, and this will allow us to demonstrate some of the features in the Kadence Pro theme add-on. All right, great. So now let's go back to the dashboard. I have already gone ahead and installed the Pro plugins. So we have the Kadence Blocks Pro extension, and we have the Kadence Pro Premium add-on for the Kadence theme. And I got that from my account here, where you can access your API downloads after you've purchased the add-on. So, and remember, you can purchase Kadence Blocks Pro by itself. So you can go and just purchase it by itself, or you can get the essential bundle where you will get the Blocks Pro and the Kadence Theme Pro and Pro Starter Templates as well. And you can also purchase just the Kadence Pro theme by itself, right? So that's $59 for the Pro theme and $69 for Kadence Blocks. So these can be purchased individually, just so you know, but you also can get them as a bundle. So once you get those, though, you'll now have access to your downloads here, and from here you can go ahead and download the plugins and then upload them to your website. So I already have these installed, and we're now ready to go. So let's take a look at what has changed. So if I go here to Appearance, and we take a look at Kadence, we'll notice that we now have an Elements subtab here. This is going to be for hooked elements, but just let's take a look at the whole of everything that has now been added in the Pro version. So remember, in the free version, you get access to these top 6 pieces of functionality right here. In the Pro add-ons, you now get access to an additional 9. So we have header add-ons and additional elements that we can add to the header. We have conditional headers, which will allow us to display different headers on different pages conditionally. We have ultimate menu, which will allow for mega menus, header footer scripts, hooked elements where we can add any content anywhere into the site conditionally. We have WooCommerce add-ons, so we have new options added into the customizer for WooCommerce stores, infinite scroll, local gravatars, and archive custom page title backgrounds. If we take a look at Kadence Blocks and see what has changed, initially we had access to all the stuff that you see up here. So everything here, all these 12 add-ons, up to testimonials. Now we also have an additional 7 add-ons, 7 blocks that have been added. So we have image overlay, split content, post grid carousel, Modal, product carousel, video pop-up, and portfolio grid carousel. So we're going to be demonstrating some of these in this tutorial so that you can see the benefit of using some of these in your work. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first thing that's been added, which is in the header of the website. So if I'm going to go back to the website here and we click on the customizer. All right, and now we're going to select our header. So if you look at this header, we have got a search icon, a logo, we have our navigation, and then a button. So nothing unique here, but if you look to the left, you will notice that there is an increase in the number of available items that we can use. So we've gone from 7 initial items in the free version to over 19 in the Pro version. And some of those include having multiple dividers. So we have the divider 1, 2, and 3. And then you also have multiple navigations. So we have up to 4 different navigations that we can add to the website now. We have the ability to add a cart. We have the ability to add an account icon to the header, and so on and so forth. So a lot of good things that we can add. But the one thing that I really wanted to show you guys is how to add conditional headers. So right now, this is our standard header for the website. So every page has this header attached to it. If we go back and we now look at the headers here and we scroll all the way down, you'll now see there's an additional option here called conditional header. If you click on that, you'll see that you now have the ability to add multiple different headers, and these can be assigned to different pages conditionally. And we're going to do one right now. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to leave this alone. So we have this extra header that comes here by default, and you can configure this and use this if you want. We're not going to do that right now. What we're going to do is we're going to just create one ourselves, and we're just going to start from basic. So we want something blank, extra header 2. And then what we need to do so that we can see what that header looks like is we need to tell it to please preview this header. So I'm going to go over here where it says default, and I'm going to select extra header 2. I'm going to confirm and save the settings so that it knows to start featuring that header that I selected. And now it's doing it. So you can see right here saying preview header, extra header 2. So you can see here the header has changed to these elements right here. Okay, so now when I make changes in the header section right here, those changes will only reflect for this particular header while our main header is still saved. So the first thing that I want to do obviously is I want to change this information. So we're going to create a header for our member dashboard, right? So that when they're logged in and they go to the member dashboard, they have a different header than what the public sees. So obviously the first thing that I would want is I would definitely want to keep our logo in place. So I'm going to come here and grab the logo. Okay, and then I'm going to configure this to remove the text, and then we're going to make this logo a little bit smaller. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do now that we got our logo in place is we're going to add some additional items here that are only specific to members. So I'm going to get rid of this primary navigation. I don't want that. And we're going to go back to our header. And what I want to do is I want to add an account icon, right? So sometimes if you're logged in, you'll want to have an account link right there. So from here, we can go ahead and select the account, which is this one right here. I'm going to put this all the way to the right. Then I'm going to grab a divider and put right next to it to create some separation. There we go. All right, and you can see everything happening up here as we're doing this. Okay, so now we have a divider, now we have an account, and then the other thing that I want is I want a button. So I'm going to grab a button. There we go. And now a button is in place, and let's go ahead and style this button, make it a little bit nicer. So I'm going to go ahead and select this, and we'll go to design. And we're going to have border radius. Let's increase the border radius to 4. And let's change some of the colors here. Actually, let's make this a smaller button. Or actually, let's just do a custom button here. Okay, great. So now I want the top to be 12, and the left and right will be 24. Bottom will be 12. All right, that looks good. Actually, let's reduce this to 10. Make it a little bit slimmer. All right, that looks great. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to change these colors. So I want the text color to be the dark green, and I want the hover color to also be dark green. I want the background color to be a lighter green, like that, and the background color to be even lighter once you hover over it. So let's actually just grab an even lighter color, like so, something like that. All right, great. So now when we hover over this, yeah, and that pops out like that. Looks really good. All right, our button is actually done. So now we have the button. Now we need to change it from saying button. We don't want this to say button. So I'm going to go ahead and configure the button here. We're going to change this to, let's say, my courses, right? So let's say they're accessing their courses through there. All right, great. So this now looks good. Now the next thing I'm going to do here is I want to configure this. I want to configure this row. So it's I think it's a little bit too wide. So I'm going to select the cog right here just for this main row. And we're going to reduce the size here all the way until everything's touching. All right. Then the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to go back, and under the conditional header option, I'm sorry, we're already on this specific header. So under the sticky header option, I'm going to turn the sticky part to on. Now, when you enable sticky header in a conditional header, it only applies to this header. It will not apply to the other one. And I'll demonstrate that in a minute here. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to say yes, only on the main row. I only want the main row to be sticky. So that's sticky right there, and that looks really good. The next thing that I want to do is I want to change some aspects of the design. So I'm going to come here, sticky header background. I want that background to be a little bit darker. So let's make that a little bit darker. See if that color looks good. Let's go with something more beige. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be our sticky. There, you can see that once I start scrolling, it starts to change color, right? That's our sticky header background. Okay, let's actually get much. Yeah, that's better, more in tune. Okay, so now we're done with our sticky header. Let's go ahead and take a look and see if this works. Now, the one thing that we do want to do though is want to go back to our conditional header, all right? And we want to come here under this extra header too. We want to set up the conditions for this, okay? So the display settings, where do we want this to be displayed? Well, we want this to show on page on a page, right? So we're going to come here and we're going to look for single pages. Then we want to select the page that we want to use. We're going to select individually, and then you click on select items, and the page we are actually looking for is the dashboard page. I'm going to click select. All right, and now that rule has now been added, and there are additional rules you can add. You can even add it by, you know, who is going to be visible to, logged out users, logged in users, and then the different roles that you have available. So there's a lot of great things that you can do over here. But for now, we just want it only available on this one page. So now that we are completely done with that, I'm going to go ahead and publish this. All right, and then I'm now going to go back to conditional headers. And because this is only applying to one page, what I want to do here is when I go back here, go to header, I'm going to go back to conditional header. Under the preview, current previewing, I'm going to change that back to default. And then I'm going to confirm and exit preview mode. And what that's going to do is going to reset everything back to how it was before. So now my main header is back on my home page, and I can now go ahead and exit the customizer. So let's go ahead and test and see if our new header actually applied to the page that we wanted it to apply to. So if I go ahead and scroll through here, I can see, okay, my header is behaving normally. But if I go to the dashboard page right here, I notice that now I have this new header right here, right? And if I start to scroll, you can see now the header is adapting the behavior that I have applied to it, which is that it has a color to show that it's a header, and then it has the button and the account link. Okay, and this is how custom headers works. So you basically can create a custom header for any page that you want. Now, what if as you're looking at this, you say, well, I can see the header, but I really can't, it really is not showing very well. It's kind of floating in space by itself, and maybe we should add a background color or maybe a border to it or something like that. Very easy to do. Just go back to your customizer, go to header, scroll down, click on conditional header. We're going to change the preview to extra header 2, confirm and save. This way we can see it ourselves. So that's the header right there. Okay. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to impact the design of that header. So you just click on design. And right here where we have header background, we're going to change that color to a color that we want. Once we're done, publish. And now if I go back to the dashboard page, you can now see that that header is now clearly separated from the content page here. And as we scroll, the header stays in place, allowing for the call to action to still be in place there. And that is how you work with the conditional headers from the Kadence Pro Theme add-on. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the additional capabilities that we've gotten with the Kadence Blocks Pro. We're going to be specifically looking at the Modal pop-up and hooked elements. Okay, so let's go back to the dashboard, and under appearance here where it says Kadence, we're going to select elements. When you click on this, you'll be given an option to create a new element. And our element is basically something that you can hook onto anywhere on your website. So it could be anything that you want. It could be a section of a page. It could be a pop-up. It could just be a sidebar. It could be a header. It could be a footer. It could be anything. In this case, for this specific tutorial, I want to demonstrate the benefit of having the Kadence Blocks Pro and some of the add-on blocks that it has. and using that in combination with the elements feature of the Kadence Pro theme add-on. So let's go ahead and click on add new, and here we're going to set up our element. The type of element we're going to be using in this one is a fixed element, and all that means is whatever element we create will be fixed to a specific part of the website. Okay, you can create a default element where you can put it anywhere that you want, or you can use HTML editor to create something really custom. For this specific tutorial and this example, we're going to do fixed. Okay, great. And we're going to call this one food pop-up. So we're going to create a food pop-up or a recipe pop-up. How about that? Next, we're going to start adding some elements. So the first thing is I'm going to open up my blocks here. And the block that I'm looking for is the Modal block. Modal will allow us to create a pop-up. And this is only available in the Kadence Blocks Pro. So click on that. And you have this Modal here. I'm going to go ahead and close this so we have more space. Okay, so this is what's going to pop up when somebody clicks this button. So this is just the default setup. Now we're going to configure this to look exactly the way that we want it to look. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to start modifying this link. And so if you look here over to the right, we're just going to go from top to bottom, modifying everything. So let's go to the link settings. And I want this link color, that means the color of the text in here. And let's change this text to, let's change it to get this now. So this link color, I want to change that color to be a dark green. I want the link background to be a light green. And I want the link border color to be dark green. Okay. And then on hover, right now, the link background is set to be a dark color. So right now this looks fine. I'm going to leave this exactly the way that it is. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to add a icon to it. So let's scroll down and there's an opportunity to add an icon. I want the icon on the left. I'm going to select icon and we'll just pick any icon we want. So let's do the gift icon. So now we've set up our link and the link looks great. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up the content of the Modal, all right? So in here where it says create awesome, you can actually add any block that you want. In this case, we're going to add a row block, we're going to add an image, and we're going to add a subscribe form. So I'm going to go ahead and click the / and I'm going to select the row layout. I want a 2-column row layout. And now that I've added those 2 columns, I want one side of the column to be smaller than the other. So you can actually bring your mouse cursor right here and you can drag this to be however way you want. So I want 40% on one side, 60% on the other side. Over here on the right, I'm going to eliminate the column gutter. So the spacing between the column, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that. And then I'm also going to give it a background color. So I'm going to come here, background color, and I want something light. Then the other thing that I want to do is I'm going to come here to the padding and margin. I'm going to set the top to 0. The right will be 0. The bottom will also be 0. And the left will be 0. Okay. And then the next thing that we need to do now is need to add our elements to it, our blocks to it. So I'm going to go ahead and select the left side and we want an image to go in there. Now you could use the image, you could use an image block that comes by default in Gutenberg, but I actually want to use the advanced gallery. The advanced gallery from Kadence Blocks is a way for you to create a gallery or portfolio. In this case, I only want to have one image. It actually works very well for adding just a singular image. So I'm going to go to my media library. I already know the image that I want, which is image of a book right here. I'm going to insert that in there. You notice how the image comes in really small? Well, I'm going to fix that by changing the column settings. So the default column settings is 3. We're going to change that to 1. And now our image is right here. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm now going to add a form. So I'm going to come, actually before we do that, right here you see this gutter. I'm going to turn that to 0 because I want this image to be fully flush against my row. On the second column, I'm going to go ahead and add a form. We're going to add a Kadence form. So I'm going to click on the message one. I don't need that. And then now I'm going to configure this form to look the way that I want it to look. So first, we're going to select the name field. I don't want a label there. I want it to just have placeholder that says enter your name. And then we'll do the same thing for the email field. And then for the submit button, we want to say get access now. And I'm going to go to button styles here, and I'm going to make this a small button, and I want it to be full width. And then we're going to go back to our field styles here. So over here you have field styles, and I also want this to be small for both fields. Okay, so now that looks good. Now we need a little bit of text to tell people what to do. So I'm going to click here, select advanced heading. I want the paragraph version of that. And here we're going to say get instant access to 10 power food recipes. Okay, we're going to scroll that up so it's above the form. And let's close some of the gap here. So I'm going to go into the typography settings. I want to set a size of 18 and a line height of 26. Actually, 24. There we go. All right, that looks good. Now I noticed that there's a little bit of spacing here, so I'm going to go ahead and configure the spacing. So if you select this text, this heading on the right here, we're looking for spacing settings. And on the bottom margin, we're going to make this 8 pixels so that it's not so big. All right, so now everything looks good. Now this is a little bit too close together, so what I want to do is I'm going to select the row here, and you can always open this up in the layout tree. That way you're selecting the right thing. I'm going to select the section that contains the form, and now that I've selected that, I'm going to come over here to the right, and under the customization, I'm going to add padding of 20 pixels across the board. All right, so then the next thing that I want to do is I also want everything to align in the center. So I'm going to select the row, the total row, and I'm going to align it to the middle so that it's in the middle of the image. Okay, so far this looks good. Now, if you notice, our Modal has this background here. I want to get rid of that background. I just want my own row Modal to show up. So I'm going to select that. We're going to go to select, make sure you selected the Modal. Again, you can open up the layout tree and select Modal that way. And then on the right here, we're going to go to Modal box styling. And here we have Modal background color. I'm going to select it. It's already set to white, which is fine. Just leave it as white. And then we're going to make it transparent. All right, so now we can see now that that background is now gone. And then now we need to style our close button here. Okay, so I'm going to close out of this. We're going to go to the Modal close button. And then from here, we're going to set a color to white, and then we're going to set the background to green, and then on hover it would be, the color will be green and the background will be light green. Now there's one other thing that I want to do here on this is I'm going to go to my Modal again, and under box styling there's a 30 pixel padding going on here, so I'm going to change that to 0. So let's see how this looks so far, right? Before we do that, let's go ahead and set up how this is going to appear on our website. The way you do that is you come over here to this little page setting here that normally is the page settings for pages, but we're on the elements now. So this is our element settings. We're going to select that. And what I want to do is I want to place this fixed to the bottom after scroll, no space below the footer. Okay, so I'm going to select that. Then the next thing I want to select is on the width, I want it to be fixed. I'm going to leave this at 300, but the position is going to be to the left. So that means that this button here will be to the left of the page. And let's give it some space. So about 20 pixels from the edge of the screen to the horizontally, and 20 pixels from the bottom of the screen. Okay. The display settings, I want this to show up on every page. So display settings basically saying, where do you want this to show up? I want to show up on the entire site. You can also set up user settings, device settings, and you can even set up a time for when it does show and when it goes away, but we'll leave all that alone. All right. The next thing that I need to do is, because I set this up as fixed bottom after scroll with no space below the footer, it's actually going to be outside of our website, and that could create some problems because now it's outside of everything. So what we want to do is we want to go back to the Modal here, and right here where it says advanced, I want to load this content after the footer. That way it loads my form correctly. All right, so far everything here looks really good. I'm gonna go ahead and publish this. All right, and now let's go ahead and view the element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the site on a new page here. And when we refresh our page, we're not seeing our form. So let's see, we probably did something wrong. I see what happened. Scroll down distance till appear. So whatever, when we left this at 300, this actually won't show up until we start to scroll, and then it shows up. Well, we don't want that. What we want is we want it to show up right away. So I'm going to change this 300 here to 0. Update. And then we're now going to go to back to the page, refresh, and now it shows up right away. It's right here. Okay. So that way, no matter when we scroll, notice it's fixed to the bottom because of that setting that we have. All right. Now, when I click on this, here's our Modal. Right. Shows up really nice. Now, let's make this a little bit nicer. Okay. So I'm going to go back. We're going to select the section that contains the image here. And I want to make sure that I'm selecting the actual section. So I'm going to open up my layout tree. I'm going to grab the section here. And over here to the right, we're going to turn on the box shadow. So you can now see there's a subtle shadow going around it right here. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is over here on the margin settings, I'm going to add a negative margin of 25 pixels on the top and a negative margin of 25 pixels on the bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and update this. And now when we go back to the page, we're going to refresh. And we're going to click on our button. So when you click on this now, you can now see that the image now overlaps the form column a little bit, and it gives it that sort of that 3D feel. And then we now have our form here on the right where people can go ahead and fill out their information and subscribe to getting the 10 power food recipes. And with that, that will conclude our deep dive into the Kadence Theme Pro add-on and also Kadence Blocks Pro. I hope you guys really enjoyed the tutorial, and I hope you learned a lot of really good tips here on how to do great things on your websites. Hey, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like this video, smash that like button. And if you have a comment or a question, feel free to leave that in the comment section of this video. I promise you that I do read them and I do respond. And if there's anything that you want to know how to do using the Kadence theme or Kadence blocks, let me know, and maybe I will make a tutorial on that. All right, thank you very much for watching this. I really appreciate you, those who have watched, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.